Hello, guys. Thank you for joining me. This is the class Learn How to Write and Publish Your Book with Anntricia Bray Smith. This is day one of our instruction. I am pre-recording this class so that some of you guys can have the flexibility and the option of purchasing the program on demand. Now, there may be some noise in and out of the background periodically throughout the recordings because I am recording this from home, but I will try to keep the background distractions at a minimal, guys, so that you guys could have a quality product and really enjoy and understand the aspects of the content within this curriculum. So let us begin. I am your instructor, Anntricia Bray Smith, three-time author of self-published products. That means that what I am giving you today through this platform is everything that I have done myself. This is learning the ins and out of writing a book and publishing it and creating revenue from a product that I myself created. So I want to share the process with you because I found that it was fairly simple and it has generated some revenue that has been beneficial for my family and what I do. So the live class that I am offering, as you can see through these PowerPoint presentations, are scheduled for June 8th through 12th, 2020 from 7 to 8 p.m. nightly. But again, I am offering this pre-recorded session so that you yourself can have some flexibility in coming on demand to get the content you need to help you learn how to write and publish your book. So I'm sharing my screen with you. So what you're seeing on the screen should be my PowerPoint, and we'll go through it together. And this is day one of the content. This is what you will need moving forward. So I welcome you and I appreciate you taking the chance or the risk or the investment on being here with me so that I could teach you step by step how to write and publish your book. Again, I am teaching you the resources and the tools that I have learned throughout my process of writing 3 books solely on my own independently, and I want you to have that same freedom in producing a product that works for you and also that can impact the lives of so many people throughout our nation. As you can see, here is my contact information, and I think that that is so important because this is pre-recorded. You may have questions that I may not address in those videos, so I still want to provide you with access to me for you to have a platform to ask the questions that you need answered as it relates to the course that you see before you. So my email address is ambraysm@yahoo.com. Feel free to use that email address to submit your questions to me. Also, I have a website, and my website is www.antriciabraysmith.weebly.com. Feel free also to access that website to look at the products and resources that I have available. And also, you can use the contact tab from that website also to submit your questions that you have for me as you work through the process of this course. So this is an introductory course on how to write and publish your book. So this is your product. So being that you are here with me, it is my perception, or I am assuming, that you already either have a book idea that you want to complete and put into publishing, or you're already an established author and you're here not only to learn this process of what I do and how I do things, but also how to generate more income or revenue from a product that you have already created. And whatever the case, if you're here with me, let me encourage you to go ahead. I know that you must be sitting in front of an electronic device now if you're listening in this context, but you also need paper and pencil or some kind of transcription device so that you can take the notes that you need to write down the questions that you need as we proceed through this course. Now, I have this course set up for 5 days, 5 hours. Now, being that we're doing it this way, you're not able to just interact with me and I hear your questions and address your questions right then and there. So each video that you watch through these 5 sessions may not take you an hour. But I want you to also take the time to stop and play and stop and play and stop and play so that you can go through the process of answering the questions and also doing the work as you go along. So you want to make sure that you use this pre-recorded course to your advantage so that it works for you and that you get the most benefit from it. So what you'll need to be successful is some pencil or notebook or paper or something that you can take notes. Also, in order to be successful, you must already have some idea of the product you're wanting to create. So whether that is a 30-day meditation or inspirational book, whether it's a cookbook, whether it's some type of fiction with characters, or whether it's a how-to book or self-help book, biblical principles book, whatever it is, that product that you're wanting to share with us, you need to already have some idea of what that looks like in your head. So I suggest that if you're just here and you do not already have some idea of the product that you're wanting to create, is that you stop now and begin to think about that and then come back later and let's be ready to move forward. Okay? So it gives you that flexibility to do that. So if you don't already have some idea of the product you're wanting to create, go ahead and stop this video now and come back later at a later time when you have that, because you need that moving forward. The first thing when we go to consider writing a book, it's necessary to understand what we want our book to look like. We should already have a vision, an idea of the type of book we're wanting to create. So it says, what do you desire to write about? So that's why I said it was so important there in the introduction that you already have an idea of the type of product that you're wanting to produce. And remember, your product, because you are doing this independently and by yourself and publishing it on your own independently, you can create whatever product you desire. It can look like whatever you desire for it to look like. So you don't have to have the limitations of a publishing company or someone else telling you how something ought to look and what you can put in it and what you can't put in it and things like that. So it's about whatever you desire for that to look like. So if it's a 30-day meditation, if it's a 365-day inspiration journal, whatever it is, you're going to produce it, and it's whatever you desire for it to be. And guys, look, what's good for me may not be good for somebody else. But think about it. If you have a product idea that you're satisfied with, then most likely there are going to be some more people out there that want what you create. So whatever the topic is, don't second guess yourself. Go with what you desire to create. So whatever it is, whether it's a self-help, how-to, cookbook, whatever, you think about what it is that you want to write about and write that in your notes. So we're building the characteristics of our book, and we start doing that by deciding what it is that we're desiring to write about. So if it's a how-to book, then that is what you write in your notebook. I desire to write a how-to book. I desire to write a book about domestic violence. I'm writing a book for children. Whatever it is, write that on your paper. Now, next, we need to decide who is interested in reading the kind of book that you desire to create. Who is your book for? Now, one thing I want you to understand, it's like I understand about my books, is that my books are not for everybody. As much as I would like to have everybody go and purchase my books, and as much as I feel like my books can help somebody, my books are not for everybody. So therefore, I have to be specific in who I feel will be interested in the product that I created. So for me, I look at myself because I wrote the book and I realized some of the areas in life that I was in when I decided to write the book, or when I birthed the books. I look at women who are between the ages of 40 and 65 and who have found themselves unsatisfied in certain areas of their lives. So these are the women, or these are the people that I feel like would be interested in the products that I created in the form of books. So I've identified who will be interested in the kind of book that I created. So you need to do that as well. You need to decide who would be interested in reading a book like the one that you are working to create. So if it's a book of sermons, who would be interested in purchasing a book of sermons? Who would be interested in reading that? Then that would help you identify the target audience, and that will keep your mind focused as you begin to put the contents of your book together. If you're writing a book that talks to kids about finances and teaching them about financial literacy and how money works, then who then is your target audience? At what age are you going to start teaching these kids about money? So we'll look at children between the ages of 6 and 18 or something like that. So that narrows down our audience of who is interested in the product that we are creating. So once you figure that out and have time to think about it, please write that in your notes. And you may not have all the details of who you believe that will be interested in your product right now, but please don't eliminate this process, because like I said, it will help and be used as a guide as you are creating your product. So it may change later down the line, but who most will be interested in the product that you are creating? What will it benefit the reader for reading your book? Now, it's one thing that we know that we are selfish beings. And so a reader who picks up my books, they want to know going in, how is this book going to benefit me? And that's the focus you also want to keep on the forefront of your brain, is how will this product benefit those who decide to pick the book up? Okay? How will this product benefit the reader? And so just think about it. Just think about the subject you have. How will a cookbook help the single woman or the single man who doesn't know a whole lot about making their way around the kitchen? How will it benefit them? Because it's going to benefit them because it's going to help them prepare heart healthy meals that are simple and easy, that can easily be created right there in their kitchen by using a crock pot or an instant pot or one dish meals with little or no prep. It's going to save them money because they don't have to run out to the fast food restaurants eating themselves to death. It's going to be beneficial for them, for their health, because it's going to be time managing, because they can put it on at night, and when they wake up in the morning, lunch is already prepared because it's cooked all night in the crock pot. How will it benefit the reader? And that's what you want to start writing down in your notes, with the idea that you have. How is it going to benefit those who select your product? I know that my book, Recreating a Better Me, it's the first book I wrote. It is not only reading material, but it's also a workbook that takes the reader step by step in being aware and identifying the areas of their lives where they're stuck, or areas of their life where they have found challenging. So it takes and it shifts the mindset so they can think differently about their finances. And for the first time in their life, for many women ages 40 to 65, it's the first financial education that they've ever had. And so they struggled for years working from paycheck to paycheck. And now I have a product that I've introduced to them that minimizes living from paycheck to paycheck. And it promotes savings and investments and things like that to set their legacy on a different path by shifting the mindset as it relates to money. Okay, so that's what my book does. That's how it's going to benefit the reader. So think about how your product will benefit the reader and begin to just write, just let it flow. And there's no limit on how many benefits that you need. Just write down some, and as you're writing your book and creating your book, you may think of some more, and that's something that you can add. Now, you're going to need to go through this step because this step is going to be helpful as you begin to put your marketing strategy together to promote your book. So you do not want to miss these steps. You want to go through the process now, and it'll be so much easier for you when the product is complete and we begin to work toward a marketing and sales strategy. What genre is your book idea? And this is something that we've already addressed. We have to think about what genre does our book fall into. Is it a self-help? Is it a nonfiction? Is it a workbook? Is it a cookbook? Is it a journal? Is it a diary? Is it a biography? Is it an autobiography? Whatever genre you have for that book, this is what you need to write down in your notes. My books are nonfiction. My books are self-help. My books are spiritual. Whatever your book is, think about the genre that you want your book to fall under. I have a children's book. You think about it. You decide. And if you are really not sure, what genre do you think it most fit under? Because the genre is something that we're not going to always get it right in the beginning. We're not going to always get it right. So it's something that we may have to play around with later down the line, especially when we go to publishing and how it shows up on the market. So, but it's okay. We can work through that process, okay? And do you know enough information about your topic that you can talk about the details for a minimum of 1 hour? So, do you know enough about what you're wanting to produce that you can sit and have a conversation with me about it for a minimum of 1 hour? Because if you know enough and if you're passionate enough about the product that you're going to create, that you can talk with someone about it for a minimum of 1 hour, then you're going to have a pretty good product. You're going to have a pretty good product. Now, for children's book, maybe a little less. Can you talk about it 15 to 20 minutes? So if you can do that, then you're going to have a pretty good product. Okay? So we're not worried about the pages or anything like that, but do you know enough? If it's sermons, do you have enough sermons that you can talk about for 1 hour? Do you have a message for ministers throughout the country? Do you have enough recipes that you can tell me step by step how to create 30 meals for 30 days on a budget of less than $150 per month? You know, so I can see where that would be beneficial to some of us. I can see where many people would be willing to purchase that product and be willing to set their families on the right path to better nutrition behind your cookbook. I have 30 meals for 30 days and I have a budget of $150. I'm all in. So there's so much knowledge that you, so much resource that you are for the reader, you need to decide if you have enough information that we can talk for at least an hour about your service or your product. So you're the expert. When you produce that book, you're the expert on whatever it is that you're talking about. Okay, so you're the mastermind, you're the teacher. So make sure you have answered all these questions here so that we can begin to go through the list of the characteristics of what our book will look like. Because if you've done this, then you're already putting the pieces of your book together. It should already be coming together. So if you need to, go ahead and stop it here so that you can continue to look back at these questions and produce the answers, because it's going to help you as we move further in the content of getting our book together. Okay, once we've answered those questions, we need to name our book. What is the name of your book? You can explore possible titles for your book. Because if you're going to do a 30-day journal, think about the contents within that 30-day journal that would be gravitating to the men or women that are the audience that you think that would be interested in that book. Explore some possible titles for your book. And some of you may already know the title of your book. You already have a pretty secure idea of what you want that title to look like, and that's okay. So if you do, go ahead and write it in your notebooks or wherever it is that you're taking notes so that you will have that documented. So right now we're just brainstorming and exploring possible titles for our book. So if I was going to do a cookbook, then I would look at Meals on a Budget. How to Feed a Family of 5 for $155 a month, or for $30 a week, or whatever. You know, be creative. Be creative. Just explore options. Now, the titles of my books, I have Recreating a Better Me. I have Time to Talk. And I have Struggling to Forgive. Now, those are the 3 titles I chose for my books. Now, Recreating a Better Me, it can be misleading for some people when they're looking at it and they see a photo of me on the front of the book. So oftentimes, if they're just coming across that book, they may be interested, well, what does this mean, recreating a better me? So if they're curious, if it grabs their attention, then they'll open the book up or to see what the contents, the table of contents of that book is, to see if it's something that they may or may not be interested in. Because remember, my books are targeted at women who are between the ages of 40 and 65, and it's not only a reading material, but it's also a workbook. So it requires them also to commit to the process and not only read the book, but do the work as well to get the most from the product. So explore possible titles that work for you for your book. Now, if you already know what that looks like, go ahead and just write your title down and you're ready to go. But to some people, it's not that easy. So say that you have a list of 5 titles, 5 possible titles for your book. Go ahead and narrow that down to 2 or 3 possible titles. Go ahead and narrow it down. So eliminate 2 or 3 of them and stick with the best 2 or 3 that you can think about. Now, if you haven't already done the process up until this point, or if you're stuck at this process, go ahead and stop the video and go back and work the process so that you're able to stay on task as it relates to moving forward. So it's not a rush. We're not in a rush. This is a self-paced, on-demand course for you. So if you haven't already went through the steps and the process of doing the work up until this point, please stop and go back to the beginning and do the work. Because what you are doing, if you're writing these notes down, you're building your book now as we speak. Okay, you're already creating a product. Next, we want to consider the details that we want to include within our book. You're looking at the details within your book. Consider where you would get the content for your book. Now, when I'm talking about the content of your book, I'm talking about the topics that you're going to look at in each chapter or each subject area. Where is that content coming from? Is this knowledge that you already possess? Is this research material that you're having to draw from other resources to put together to create something? Or is this something that is already out that you're reproducing or redoing to create a product that is more easily manipulated for someone to fix something or cook something or a daily meditation, or you're getting the resources from a Bible, or you're getting the content from just your daily struggles, what you feel like you needed for that day, for the next 30 days. So think about, where will you get the content for your book? Okay, so if this is knowledge that you already have, then just write down in your notes, the contents of my book comes from prior knowledge. And the prior knowledge, where did you learn that knowledge from? Is there someone in particular that you have to give recognition to for the knowledge that you have? Like, for example, in my book, Time to Talk, I recognize some of the teachings of the late Dr. Miles Monroe. So I want to consider the subject that I'm talking about and the information that is directly spoken or taught by Dr. Miles Monroe, so that I can acknowledge that the content of my belief system come from the teachings of Dr. Miles Monroe. So I want to give reference to the content that comes from what someone else has already taught. So think about that. Where will your content come from? Okay, now if you're doing a journal, a daily journal, and some of this is coming from your mind, but you're also going to use a quote from, say, your favorite public speaker or motivational speaker, like, for example, Les Brown, and you're going to use a quote from Les Brown or a scripture from the Bible. You want to make sure that during this process that you write in your notes that some of your content is going to come from that particular resource, because we don't want to plagiarize. Not intentionally. We do not want to plagiarize. That is stealing content from someone else without giving them credit for work that they've already done. Okay, if you're using a recipe from Ree Drummond, and you're doing that recipe and you're going to put it in your recipe book or your cookbook, and it's done the exact same way that she taught you without you adding your own special spin on it, then you need to give reference to Ree Drummond for that particular recipe that you're putting in that book. So this is what it talks about here. This is where we're discussing the details that you plan to put within your book. Where's the content coming from? Okay. What resources do you plan to use to add into the content of your book? Okay. Another thing that we need to decide is what tool will you use to help you with your manuscript? What tool will you use to help you with your manuscript? Now, your manuscript is the document in which your book will be written on. Your manuscript is the document in which your book will be written on. Now, me, myself, I use a Word document from my MacBook Air. So what I did was pull up a Word document, and I wrote word for word my initial book, Recreating a Better Me. So I set up the margins, I set up the font and all of that. So that's the tool that I use. Okay, but for my last book, Struggling to Forgive, I learned a new tool to use. And that tool was to use my voice to speak into a software, like say Google Documents. And I go into the documents and the Google Docs, and I set it up to use a voice. And as I speak into the computer or the microphone or whatever, then it transcribed what I spoke, and it produced a manuscript that way for me by just speaking into the microphone. Then that's a tool also that you use. So maybe you're not able to type all that good. So you create a profile into Otter. So OTTER.ai. So if you do that, then that is also a tool. Or say maybe you already have recordings from a Facebook Live or from a YouTube Live or something that you just want to upload into Otter and have it transcribed that way to produce your manuscript. But what I need you to do is think about, at this time, what tool do you plan to use to assist you into producing the manuscript? That's important to know. So maybe you know a tool that I'm not familiar with, and maybe you're going to record yourself and send it off for a college student to transcribe for you and create the manuscript. Whatever it is that you have in mind, think about how you're going to produce your manuscript. Because I know not all of us are so tech savvy that we can sit and type something out. We may not know how to type that well, and the typing may be more dreadful to producing the book than just thinking about the overall product itself. So you have to do and decide what's best for you at this point. But technology has made things so easy and so convenient that we have all kinds of options and tools and resources that we can use to assist us in the manuscript. Another thing that we can think of is when we look at the details within our book is if we have a podcast or a blog or a journal, diary, or other resources that we want to use to create this product, we can do this. Say you're one that have kept a diary for the past 6 months and you want to publish that diary, you can do that. So what if we have a podcast where we've talked about subjects, or maybe we did series of subjects and we want to produce a manuscript or a book or a product for those podcasts or blogs that we already have. This is something that you can do. How do you imagine the pages of your book? So when I say that, in your mind, you should already be visualizing what your product looks like. So in your book, are you including images? Do you have drawings or artwork or characters that you're adding in your book to help the reader follow along with the contents of your book? How do you imagine the pages of your book? What size are you looking at when it comes to your book? Are you looking for small little books, small little pocket-sized journals? Are you looking for 6x9, pretty decent size book? Think about that. How do you imagine the pages of your book looking? So that's something to consider. So at this point, you should already have some type of visual or idea of what that book is going to look like. So are you using images in that book? And where does those images fit? Say for instance, if I'm doing a cookbook, am I preparing these meals and then taking the photos of them and uploading it to my manuscript so that people can see the end product of what that meal looks like? Are you showing the process step by step of each step you did, adding the contents within the crock pot as it goes along with your recipe to give them an additional idea of what it looks like when they follow that step? Are you adding characters in your children's book to give that child a visual of the character within the story so that they have a safe place to process the information within the story? They can hide behind the character in that story. So are you working with someone to illustrate these characters, or are you illustrating these characters by yourself, or are you using photos from within your own family to demonstrate the characters within the story? So that's something to think about. Those are the details within our book. And I wonder if you can already imagine what your book looks like. I wonder if you can already imagine. So in my mind, I can already visualize just through that information what my product is going to look like. So now that we've gotten to this point, there is a homework assignment that I want you to commit to. Yes, this is day one. We should already have written down our notes. And if we haven't did the work up until this point, we need to make sure we stop and go back and commit to the process of getting to this step. So what I want you to do is to create the title for your book. So remember, we already narrowed it down to 2 or 3. So I want you to now decide what is the title of your book. Not only that, but I want you to go into a Word document. If this is the tool you're using, remember some of you may be using Google Docs, using the voice tool in Google Docs, or you may use Otter or some other transcription transcribing software like Dragon or something like that, and whatever you use, it's well and fine. But I want you to write out your introductory section of your book. So we're going to write an introduction to our book. This can be a minimum of 2 pages. So say if you got 1 full page and maybe a quarter on the next page, that's fine. Okay, because every book is different. So what that is when the reader opens up your book, you give them a piece of who you, the author, is and why you decided to produce this book. So that introduction is going to give the reader an idea of who you are, why you're writing the book, and what you are passionate about, and what they will learn and how they will benefit from reading your book. Now, if you did the work and you go back through your notes, much of this has already been done. All you're doing is taking it from your notes and now putting it in manuscript form. So if you're using the alternative to writing by using the voice, remember, go to Google Docs and use the voice tool, or go to otter.ai and create a free account and record yourself. These are 2 resources that will transcribe the content for you, and then you can go back after it produces the manuscript and just make the editing and corrections so that you don't have to do all the typing. For additional tutorials or additional instruction on how to use the alternative resources, or if you're even not familiar with how to set up a Word document, YouTube is a valuable resource for those tutorials. So I suggest doing the homework from day 1, this section, before moving on to the next day 2. Guys, I do hope that day 1 has been valuable for you. I do hope that any questions you have has been answered and addressed. But remember, on the slide 2 of day 1, there is my contact information. Feel free to use it to reach out and ask me questions as you move along in this curriculum on learning how to write and publish your book with Anntricia Bray Smith. So I hope that you guys have made the progress. I hope that you choose to do the homework. And if you follow along with me step by step, you will have a product eventually that you can be proud of and ready to be set it into motion. So I thank you for joining me for day 1 of learning how to write and publish your book with Anntricia Bray Smith. We'll see you again for day 2.